Today's show is sponsored by Microdose Gummies. Microdose Gummies deliver perfect entry-level doses of THC that help you feel just the right amount of good, or in my case, help me get just the right amount of sleep. Sleep has always been a problem for me, and this gets me there. Microdose is available nationwide. To learn more about microdosing THC, go to microdose.com and use code LEWIS to get free shipping and 30% off your first order. Links can be found in the show description, but again, that's microdose.com and code LEWIS. This could all go horribly wrong at any minute. Hello there, and welcome to Rantcast 132, entitled Jetlagged. That's right. I just flew in from Europe, and boy, are my arms tired. Oh, boy. I have been waiting to do that joke all my life. When will I have the opportunity? And what better opportunity when there's no one around to not laugh at it, because I don't really think it deserves a laugh. I'm not sure. Maybe it's sometime when someone's said it, maybe early on during the first stages of flight from LA. I just flew in from the coast, and boy, are my arms tired. Maybe then, once, maybe in a small cafe somewhere that was not very hip. I don't know. I'd have to look it up, and I don't really care enough. It's something that I've never really attempted to think about or talk about. But that's what I am. I am jet lagged. Came in yesterday from Lisbon, and you think when you're looking at that timeline, I'm going, wow, well, I'm leaving here at 10 in the morning from there. Was going to leave at 10:30. And then we left at noon because there was problems here in New York in terms of storms yesterday, and then the other day, and then got in and was supposed to get in at like 1:30. 2:30 in the afternoon is when we got in. Great. And you're thinking, wow, I'll catch up with my sleep. How tough could it be? But 2:30 is really, it's later there. So I'm really landing at around 8:30. So by the time I kind of get going and starting to, have a yet another meal, because they give you 1.5 on the flight, it's about midnight. And then golf was on, the U.S. Open. You've got to watch that. Sure, if you're an idiot, you have to fucking watch it. So, and I couldn't fall asleep. Jet lag is not able to be awake, not able to sleep. Just somewhere in Limbosity, in Limboville, you're fucked. You just kind of, when you lie down, you're not awake. You're not asleep. When you're sitting up, you're not awake. It doesn't fucking matter. You are just, a zombie. And that's how I spent my day yesterday. And I was very, very lucky to be able to take this trip. Hugely lucky, because that's what it is. I was able during my life to be able to put together enough money to be able to take this trip. Because that's the problem. It's really important for us to be able to. I had to get the fuck out of here, is what I had to do. I needed out. I needed out badly. What was going on here was starting to drive me crazy. And I'd been sitting through it way too long. And it doesn't make sense. And I have no jokes for it, because from time to time, as you can tell on the Rantcast, because there's nothing funny about what's going on. It's ludicrous. It's stupid. It's like dealing with people who are living in a different reality that doesn't exist, and they've made it up. It's like if you were on drugs. And one group of people said, well, we're in this, we're able to fly, and then we're leaping off buildings and just, falling to the earth and dying, and people going, see how well they flew. I can't deal with the fact that we are living in two separate realities. Call me old fashioned, okay? Because my arms are tired. Call me that. Okay, but son of a bitch, it's just good, as I have said before, to get the fuck out of here and go to a country that doesn't speak your language and sit out there in a cafe or in a restaurant or wander through a museum and hear the voices, those dulcet tones around you that are not English. Spectacular. Just wonderful. It's like the sounds of the ocean. There is no anger, no madness, no God damn it, you're so full of shit. None of that. Yet that's what they may be saying, but you don't hear it. And you don't really feel that that exists because they seem to be, yep, they do, a lot happier there. Not in London. They still seem to be like British, which you don't get that sense of really happy. You get that stiff upper lip thing, but they're not as crazy as we are. All right? They may not be smiling, and they may not be like the folks in Lisbon, who is. Those folks are really just overwhelmed me with the joy they seem to go through the day with, and that seems to be elusive to many of us, including myself as of late. Not that joy was the strongest currency in my realm, okay? Huh? That little twist. But it was really something to wander around. And in Britain, you hear it, but it's in that you hear English, but it's not in that kind of nasty, negative way. Germany is different. That language will always kind of trigger something in me, being a Jew and having spent way too much time watching way too many, kind of these, the Nazi stuff that I was shown as a Jew, the Nazi stuff that I was shown when I was in Sunday school. Yes, they did. And you would have to sit through, and the other millions of documentaries I watched to try to fathom what the fuck was going on, and that shattering in German, which just is abrasive, it sounds at times. And it was always like, now they have comedy clubs, but back then you thought, wow, that is not the language of comedy. I hear it better in my head than it comes out of my mouth. And they seem to be spritzing all the time, but lovely people. I was in Berlin, and so they were quite. I'd been there as a kid, 18. Actually, had crossed into East Germany at that time. The wall was still there. Now to return, and it was gone. To see the Brandenburg Gate in its glory without any bullshit around, but still wandering through that part of town. What was the East German part of town? Not really is nice as the what was the Western sector. But the language just got to me. Just too many films, too much of it, of hearing Hitler's voice one way or another. Too many movies. But then on Prague and Amsterdam, and I'm just going to tell you, Prague and Amsterdam, go there, just go there, go there, go there, go there. Unbelievable, picture book fairy tale. Amsterdam. You can wander around in that. These houses are, 16th century, 15th, 16th, 17th century homes that are on their locks, the canals, schmuck, that are just stunning. I've walked there for years. I've been there about 9 times and walked in the same areas, and you never see the same thing twice. Just spectacular to walk through. And then there was Prague, which I really wanted to see, and said, okay, fuck it. I'm just going to go on from Berlin, and it was really special. And there were so many statues there. Just not statues in the middle of the town square or in front of a building, on the buildings, everywhere, on all buildings. Like, it was like it had to be done. It was like a requirement. There was like a law. You want to build a building, you're going to have to put 5 statues up there. We got to honor everybody and every religious saint, every religious personage, everyone, every king, queen, whatever, knight. And you're wandering through areas that have this fucking history, which we don't have. And that's the other thing. we act like we've been around forever, and therefore we really know what we're doing. Okay, and you've got this whole fucking group of people. You go wandering around. Well, the 12th century it started, or the 14th century, or look at this, and that was built in the 13th century. And what about the Normans, or the Norse, or when they came in, or the Huns, and da 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 da. You just kind of stand around. But the statues in Czechoslovakia were just stunning. Just, but I don't even know. You just were kind of overwhelmed because there was so much. As a matter of fact, there were so many statues that I have to use the word statuary, and I've never used the word statuary in a sentence at any time because there've never been that many statues, and I wonder if it's even the right word, but it seems to be. And I will move on. Just the grandest of times there, to be able to go there, and I am very glad that I could. I was over there initially, drawn there because I was going to go to see the Elton John concert, and that's what I did. And then I was going to be doing shows, and I hope, and I'm seriously sorry if I did not make it clear that if somehow you missed the information that the shows were going to be canceled, or if you missed my apology. I was supposed to perform in London. I will next year. I was supposed to perform in Amsterdam. I will next year. Belgium. Hopefully, I will be there next year, and hopefully in Berlin, and maybe even Prague, which was not on the list, and Copenhagen this time again, and maybe Denmark, and maybe Sweden, and to try to do one last roundup in Europe. But I really am sorry if you didn't hear that I was not going to be there. We just had made the mistake of trying to get out a special and do a push to try to get people to come out and see the shows. And it was too late. You need a certain amount of lead time. We didn't have it. And I just pulled the plug because we weren't selling the tickets. And because we really didn't do enough press. We did no press and very little advertising, and there just wasn't time. And my name is one that people go, oh, we've got to be there. We need to remind them with pictures and a little bit of spritz here and there. And like the Germans, I spritz a little. So I really am sorry about that, but we will be back. And I met somebody coming off the plane in Amsterdam, and they said, oh, we came here to see your show. And I said, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to do it. I apologize. And they said, well, we didn't come just for you. You're about the fifth reason we came, which is nice. I felt better about things and felt that I'd been put in my place. I also had the revelation of something I really didn't want. If somebody would turn to me, I'd be on some public transit, and they would turn to me and look at me as if they recognized me, and I was not recognized a lot there. Hence the need for the advertising. But in all through in London and in Amsterdam, where I'd spent even a ton of time. I hadn't been in London a lot, but certainly my stuff has. And but I was on the public transportation, and people would look and like they knew me and would give a gesture, and I would, oh wow, and so I'd wait for them to say something like, "What are you doing in our country?" And they said, "Would you like my seat because you're old? Would you like my seat because you're old?" And so that was that, and old I was, and but I didn't take the seat. It was like, hey, fuck, I can stand. This is like exercise. I need this time to be standing up because God knows how much longer I will be. So it was a great trip, and I'm going to talk more about it next week. I promise you that, because there's some things along the way that I would like to tell you about, things that I saw, and also that feeling it was of relief being there, where we're a country of all these states, and I'm going to travel in the United States. Well, once you travel in the United States, you can't get away from us. Okay, you're It may be really different if you leave here to go from here down to, let's say, Georgia, or, let's say you wanted to go Atlanta. It's real different down in Atlanta. Yes, it is. But you're still going to bounce back against all the stuff. You can go to Kansas City, city I love. Dayton, Ohio, another one that I've always enjoyed. Huntsville, Alabama. You can go there. You can spend your time there. And but it does not matter. It's not a question of where they are physically located, except for the fact that they're physically located in the United States. And you will be bombarded by our news. And who's going to win this election? Because, God damn it, it's only 2.5 years away, so we better get on it now, and you better think about this. And is he going to go to jail? Is he not going to go to jail? What does this mean? Well, will he be able to turn the tide against himself? And will he, the others, will he be able to crush them and their tiny spirits, all of those who plan to run again? That's nonsense. But over there, London has 3 papers, 3 at least, morning papers that I saw in the place I was staying. 3 newspapers, printed newspapers, with long, like a lot of stuff in them, as opposed to what's happening to us in terms of, let's not give ourselves any information, let's guess. And in those papers, there's very little about us, unless it's something like the him being indicted. Most of it is coming through the TV, and a ton of it of us is coming through the TV, and that's where they see us. They're probably on the phone, bombarded. They bombard themselves because with our shit, and so it's a little. It's a touch inescapable, but it's mostly just Law and Order and SUV and SUV or SVU. I never get it right, but a variety of our TV shows, and CNN is there. But not our CNN, more of like a mix of their news and our news. But they're watching us. They're watching us. And the one thing that they continue to ask every place I went, all the countries I went, London, Amsterdam, Berlin, Prague, and Lisbon, all of them, everywhere. The question was, at some point during the day, if not once, not twice, 3 times at least, what's with the guns? What's with the guns? What's with the guns? And I have to say that in London, I felt about as comfortable as I've ever felt anywhere. I just did. They are way ahead of New York in terms of having come through this pandemic, and it may have something to do with a safety net. I don't know, but they certainly seem to be further along than we are. There doesn't seem to be this kind of this edginess that we have in New York that has returned, this kind of 80s edginess where people needles are back on the street, and the homeless, they don't seem to have found out how to deal with them. They've had all that time during the pandemic. They had found places for them before the pandemic, so it seemed. The police have not returned to kind of secure to basically provide the kind of security for those coming in from out of town and ourselves. And by security, I mean maintaining it as a secure place that you feel comfortable with your family, like you do in England. And part of that in England may be that they're not carrying guns around, nor were they carrying them around in Amsterdam. There was no sense of that. But there was more trash than I'd ever seen there. And that was from the most tourists I've ever seen in Amsterdam. And I've been there at all times of the year. People are traveling to Europe. If you're thinking of going, if you're lucky enough to be able to do that, wait till next year, because right now people are so desperate to get out. These places were clogged. It was not something I thought of when setting out to do this trip. But it was well worth the time, the energy, and the effort, and I'm glad that I did. So you've probably heard about the positives of microdosing. You know, that just right feeling when your body and mind are really at peace, like after a workout or a nice long shower, when you're relaxed, focused, and a little energized. Microdosing helps you get into that zone easier and stay there longer. It can help with your creativity, the ability to focus, pain management, or the desire to just wind down the day and get a restful sleep. Today's show is sponsored by Microdose Gummies. Microdose gummies deliver perfect entry-level doses of THC that help you feel just the right amount of good, or in my case, help me get just the right amount of sleep. I use 2 of them to achieve that. The Cotton Candy Kush works. It says indica on the front, and it also says indica on the front of the Granddaddy Sour OG that I use. Both work well. I've enjoyed using them, and they do the job. Sleep has always been a problem for me, and this gets me there. Microdose is available nationwide. To learn more about microdosing THC, go to microdose.com and use code LEWIS to get free shipping and 30% off your first order. Links can be found in the show description, but again, that's microdose.com and code LEWIS. And I'm glad to be doing this on Juneteenth, which I'd forgotten was a holiday because it's so new that I'd forgotten. And now at least I think because of the trip, I will now be embedded in my mind that it is a holiday and an important one because it reminds us there was a time, and because we're basically telling people not to go to the library, the kids, you don't want to teach the kids about slavery. So at least I'll have one day every year where on TV they might talk about it or on the phones, who knows. But somewhere, with the idea that history is dismissed in this country, when you wander through Europe, you got to fucking wonder why. All right? And we don't have a lot of history. I mean, this is a nation of people who couldn't possibly memorize the history of any of the countries I went through. Okay? All of them go way, way fucking back. We go back 300 and what X years. All right? We could barely pass tests for that. And now we're saying, well, you want to avoid these kids learning about slavery because they'll feel bad. I learned about slavery. I did not feel bad. I felt like you don't do this shit. What the fuck was the matter with us? And you don't do it again. Oh, and this is why certain things are the way they fucking are in certain states. Okay? And I think we have got to pay fuck attention. There hasn't been a better lesson than people trying to take away the rights of our children to knowledge. If there's not a better lesson than the need for us to understand what we did wrong so we can do it right, which is not woke. It's just called what you do if you give a shit. Oh. And now I'm home, and now look at this, the adjutant. The adjutant's back. At least there I would stare, and God knows what it was like to be, living when the Catholic Church was strong, harming everybody in certain areas. But this is really what we do here, beyond belief. It took long enough for us to finally arrive at this, to finally say, yeah, it's over. Okay? This is it. It is done. And we shall move on. And I'm sure that there are people belly aching today about it. And because we have got to, you do not allow the kind of casual acceptance of racism that has been occurring for the past 6 years. Or however. I mean, it's been there, but it's not been this open, that acceptance of it, where someone who's running for the presidency of the United States again allowed nonchalance about it. Like, what do you mean? And that people could finally go, boy, those, God damn it. I don't need to put up with their shit. Huh? What about your? And all of it's nuts because we are us. Stop it. I am too old to be living in two realities. And it has knocked me the fuck out. And there's no joke for it. I did the joke. I talked about it on stage before the shit hit the fan. And we wake up afterwards, come out of our homes, and what do? We're even locked more into that nonsense. And somehow these people get elected who really have developed a whole different view. Okay, it's like if you had two groups of people on acid, And one group was walking around on the ground, just kind of dealing with stuff. And the other group was up on the top of buildings, screaming that they could fly. And people were jumping off the buildings and literally falling and smashing some of the people in the street. And the people on the roof were going, see, they can fly, we can fly. That's not a great analogy, but it's close enough, especially when you're jet lagged. So it was nice to fly home during Father's Day. I, not being a father, except that I did bring my imaginary children on the plane with me, and they were terrific. And I was a little miffed because once again, no gifts, nothing from the little fuckers. My mother would always bitch about Mother's Day. She always, it was like Father's Day didn't exist because they're not as important as mothers are. Going over there, I was really reminded, as always, you don't need the reminder, but one of the reasons that it was exciting is that I got an understanding of my father's appreciation for a painter, Mondrian. I realized on the plane coming home and started while I was there that I just really wished that I'd asked him so many more questions than I did. Just so many more about his philosophy, which I had a good sense of from what he had told me to read, such as Catch-22, and the way in which he lived his life. But I really would like to have talked to him about his, what it was like to work as a mechanical engineer, and how much he enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it, and then how much he enjoyed being an artist and what that meant to him and what it gave him, because his work is really splendid. And his favorite artist, Mondrian, whose work I got to see at the Tate Modern Art Museum, which was really quite something. Just extraordinary, the work that I got to see there. And it was odd because I didn't realize, I thought it was just his work. It turned out it was in combination with a Scandinavian artist, a woman who I did not know her work at all. And they put them together in part because mainly in part because of their philosophies. The philosophy was really they were theosophists. Theosophists. God. Wow, sometimes I stagger myself with my inabilities. Theosophists. And is inabilities a word? I don't think so. But you can't call it disabilities, but it certainly is a little disablement when it comes to some of the glitches I've been showing as of late. Lock me up for 2 years and I come out. You go, what do you remember? Nothing. And I'm sticking to the story. Theosophists. So that philosophy, I was wondering, I think my father would agree with that philosophy. I think he would have been interested. He may have known it. But the interesting thing is how much of an appreciation of Mondrian, which I did not have before because I thought he was, originally when my father said Mondrian, that he liked the color. I said, would you like? He said his use of color, that he really had a keen sense of color. And there may have been more behind if I, pursued it, because it was really, I always thought, it's got to be kidding, because these are little squares of white, some different kind of off-color white, and then red or maybe blue, some green, whatever, in a square or a rectangle. And I never understood it. And I always thought it was very static. But watching his development as an artist, which they take you through and they're not even showing you a ton of his work because they're putting it side by side with this woman. But I really was able to get a sense of it from, and not that her work wasn't interesting, but I was really focused on my dad's idol, mentor, in a sense. So that he initially he did a lot of naturalist stuff, a lot of painting out in nature, hence Theosophy, Theosophists, which is like spiritual and having to do with seeing finding God in the spiritual, finding God in the natural, in nature. Wherever you found God, it did not matter. That was what was important. And so, yeah, he had made the transition from doing these kind of natural nature kind of paintings that he did, and then began to focus on trees, and then focused on leaves, and the leaves, which had a certain motion to them, he dropped everything else except the leaves, and the leaves morphed into these squares, not just squares, but these units of color that were in his paintings. And I had never seen motion in those paintings in any level. I just saw them as very static. But as you watched it develop, you went and stood there next and looked at the painting, and you realized, my God, there is motion in this, which is unusual anyway. You kind of get some sense of that in paintings, but mostly kind of in terms of a more heady, more conceptual. But this was like, wow, there is a sense of movement here. And it had to do with some of the colors he put in and the color outside on the band. And I wish that I had at that time with my dad to talk about, but such is life. I was the time that I had with him was exceptional. And, so that's the story from here. But I will be back next week. And next week, we'll start reading some rants that you have sent in. So start sending in some more. I will be here to read them. I'll have some time to do that now. And I look forward to that, as I look forward to seeing you again. Well, at least seeing you through this insanity of the cable access studio. Thank you for spending time with me. As always, I've enjoyed being able to rattle on and prattle on in front of you. And I hope this has made some sense, because God knows I've been in a bit of a jet lag. Hey, and for those of you who've been wanting to get something off your chest, there's no better time than now. I've been saving up some old rants, but I'm looking for some new ones. So get them into me now at livelewis.com, and I'll be reading a bunch of them next week. God, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks to all of you for listening to my Rantcast. If you have a rant you want to get off your chest, send it in to me at lewisblack.com/live. You can think of it as therapy, or whatever you want to think of it as. Just let it rip. And I want to thank the true stars of our show, the ranters, and the splendid rants they gave us. Lewis Black's Rantcast was created and hosted by me. Aha, Lewis Black. Our live rant audio was produced by James Salter. Our theme song by Chris Lane. Executive producer, Ben Brewer. Executive producers, Matt Kleinschmidt and Robert Kelly for the Laugh Button Podcast.